You're listening to Your Highest Self podcast, episode 85. Today, we're going to talk about cycle syncing with your triple goddess. Hey guys, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the time to invest in your mind and do it with me today. Today, I have a very special co-host. Say hi to my friend Lucas. Lucas, say hi.
Hi, everyone.
If you guys have been listening to the show for a while, you will recognize Lucas from a previous episode where we talked about the triple goddess, and he taught us all about connection to source, connection to Gaia, how to invest into that relationship. And then he shared the theorem of the triple goddess. And so today we've actually come together to co-host and bring you this episode and one more. So there's going to be more than one. And we're doing this as a preface because we're actually going to be hosting a Goddess Provenance together. This is going to be a 5-day goddess initiation. And we're so excited to to kind of get you guys ready for the goddess initiation. We decided to create some informational podcasts, and we're super stoked. How do you feel, Lucas?
Oh my God, I'm filled with excitement every single day since we started talking about this.
It was so interesting how it just kind of fell into both our laps. So just to give you guys a little context, I had wanted to do like a mastermind or something this year all about feminine energy, feminine leadership, and leading from our divine feminine, activating our feminine. And then Lucas just texted me out of the blue like a month ago and was like, hey, how do you feel about doing a goddess energy challenge together? And I was like, I am so here for it. And then from there, when things are in alignment, they move so fast. Like we literally have just like moved so quickly on our initiation as well as getting ready for our mastermind launch. So make sure you guys are tuned into both our Instagrams and sign up for the initiation if you want to be a part of it.
Oh, yes. Yes.
All right, so today we're going to be talking about cycle syncing with your inner goddess. And what we're going to do today, actually, Lucas, do you want to intro it?
I would love to. So first off, for all of you who are listening, I happen to be a man. And so I cannot walk in your shoes. I would love that. That would be really cool, but I cannot walk in your shoes. So there are some things that we're going to talk about today that you're just going to have to try to internalize what we're talking about from your own perspective. Now, that's always true, right? I mean, isn't that kind of the point of podcasts and doing challenges and working with people? Like, I have some wisdom to share, but you need to internalize that. But it's more true when you're a woman listening to a man talking about cycle. So Shanae and I, while we were putting together our goddess initiation, we started talking about the woman's cycle. And you pointed out to me something that I didn't know. You pointed out to me that right now women start their cycle count on the first day of their bleed. Mm-hmm. Now, any of you who have listened to our previous episode from about a year ago, you all know that I'm pretty deeply connected to source. And to me, that source connection comes entirely through my feminine side. It comes through my feminine energy. And that's what we talked about a year ago. Well, when you said women start their day one is the first day of their bleed on their cycle, I said, nope, that's not right.
Like instantly, he was like, nope.
Nope. That's not the way women work. That's not the way nature works. That's not the way our bodies work. That's not the way men work. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about what nature does and how women are a part of that, how women flow in the cycles of nature, right? So when does the year start? Depends on when you start counting, but January 1st is in the middle of winter, not at the beginning of winter. Right? Mm-hmm. Ancient calendars probably started at the beginning of spring. Why? Because nature begins by preparing the ground. Doesn't begin by clearing, doesn't begin by shedding. It begins by preparing. Right? So it warms up and it gets things moving. It's like the beginning of a workout. You
Mhm.
warm up, you get things moving, you get your blood flowing, you get the hormones to start getting ready for the idea that you're about to do a workout.
That's
And the
so,
same, go ahead.
I should say that's so true. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah. Well, so to nature, me in my connection with nature, the beginning of the year starts at the beginning of spring. Starts when life begins to say, okay, it's time to wake up. It's like the beginning of your day. The beginning of your day doesn't happen at midnight. It happens when you wake up. Um, and that was like an instant download. As soon as you sort of you turned the key, you unlocked it, you made it possible. You were like, we start our count at the beginning of our bleed. And I was like, no, instant download. That's not the way it works.
Mhm, mhm.
Had to be, and pardon me for being a man that's pointing this out, but it had to have been a man that created that.
And I really wrote that. So for anyone who feels a little bit lost, what we mean is, when, and you probably don't feel lost, but in case you do, because I've talked about this on the podcast so many times. And if you do feel lost, actually, to have a little bit of preface, you can go listen to the episode Aligning Your Life with Your Moon Cycle. But when we talk about day one, when we're cycle syncing, we're tracking our period. And so day one is the first day of your bleed. That's day one of your cycle. And then we track day one, day two, day three, day four, day five. So that's what I was telling Lucas, and he was like, "Nope, that's wrong. Day one is the first day of your spring." And I was like, "All right, like I'll track that this month and track my energy and see how that feels and see how that goes." And then we went down the rabbit hole.
Have you been tracking? What do you think? How does it feel?
I like it. It's actually easier to track this way because I love the idea of ending the cycle into like the menstruation, right? So it's almost as if it's like that cycle is ending and then the rebirth is happening after that. So yeah, I love the idea, and I'm still tracking it, and I've asked a couple of my clients to do it as well.
Nice. Amazing. And again, unfortunately, or I mean, it's not really unfortunate, but I can't walk in those shoes. I can't track my cycle like that.
Mm-hmm.
I can get the download, but I can't test it out.
I think which is why we're collaborating.
You make such a good team.
I know we do. So we went down the rabbit hole, you guys, and we were, this is part of us gathering the information to teach during the goddess initiation. And day three is going to be all about the cycle. So we were brainstorming and marinating and downloading and connecting and really thinking about how do we how does the triple goddess connect to the cycle? And that rabbit hole led us down one um, one thing, and then we decided, scratch that, and we came up with a whole new thing. And so what we have come up with is that there are three cycle energies, and when we are in our cycle, actually, what had happened was I was telling Lucas, I said, you know what? Sometimes I have extended winters, sometimes I have extended springs, and then sometimes during my cycle I'm like very motivated and productive and I'm in my healthy masculine. And he was like, maybe the spring is the warrior maiden. And then we decided, no, actually, there are sometimes times in our cycle when we show up as more feminine. And then there are some times in the cycle where it's more masculine. And so today we're going to teach you, we haven't named it, but teach you our new cycle theory, and just help you guys talk about both, because just like everything in life, there is a masculine aspect to it and a feminine aspect to it. And with our cycle, why aren't we talking about the masculine aspect of our cycle? Why are we only talking about the feminine aspect to it? So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Wow. Almost like we've been thinking about it and talking about it nonstop for 2 weeks.
I know. Now we get to bring it to the world. So let's start with the feminine, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay.
The proposal on the table here for all of those of you who want to engage with this, the proposal is that number one, start your cycle on the first day after your bleed ends. Throw away the old stuff. Start with this new thing. Start with your cycle on the first day after your bleed ends. Number two, we don't have 4 seasons of the cycle. It's actually the 3 goddess energies. So maiden, mother, grandmother. And maiden begins on the first day after your bleed ends and lasts for as long as she lasts. And you know. And then as you move out of maiden, you move into mother. And as you move out of mother, you move into grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And that way you're cycling between these 3 goddess energies. It's a smooth transition. It lasts as long as it needs to, as is true of feminine energy in general. All of the things you do, it's about flow. You stay in that flow for as long as you need to. You move on when you're ready.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What I really like about this is that the old way of cycle syncing with the 4 seasons, I felt like it was very like limited and rigid and linear. It didn't really feel like a cycle, but for when we look at it, looking at the aspects of our goddess, maiden, mother, and grandmother, it just is a more natural flow. And there's more room to play. You know, maybe this cycle, my maiden, is the majority of the time. And then I'm in my mother 3 days, 4 days. It feels just like I have more permission to not look at my cycle in the weeks. Cause I think when we looked at the 4 seasons, it was like week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. But instead it gives more room for flow, just like how you said, which is that's what being in your feminine is all about.
Yeah. So you also brought up the other side of this. Why are we talking only about feminine energy? Where's the masculine energy? Like, if we want to be balanced beings, there is a masculine component to all of our energies.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started talking about how sometimes, and this is coming from your experience, because I don't have any experience. Sometimes you'll go from maiden to, the masculine version of mother.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe you'll transition when you move into grandmother, you'll stay in the masculine version of grandmother, or maybe you'll go back to the feminine version of grandmother that cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's just the way that the energy needed to move through you that cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's talk about the masculine expression of our cycle.
Yeah. Well, we introduced the masculine energies a year ago, but quick refresher. We're all familiar with the feminine version of the feminine energy, right? Maiden, mother, grandmother. So the masculine version of those energies, warrior maiden, is the masculine female.
Mm-hmm.
And then Shanae and I actually had this huge epiphany recently that the masculine mother is the enchantress, which is so cool. We're going to have so much fun with this.
Yeah.
And then the masculine version of the grandmother is something that we're calling the strategist. Another thing that I'm so excited for us to dive into this in our goddess initiation, just really open up the notion of masculine grandmother and how powerful she can be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I love most about this is that when I learned about the masculine energy of the triple goddess, it gave me permission versus feeling shameful about the healthy divine masculine that I naturally operate out of. When I first learned about masculine and feminine energy, like most people, I swung on the spectrum. I was like, oh, masculine is bad. I don't want to be masculine. And I swung all the way to the divine feminine, and I had trouble taking action. I had trouble executing. I had trouble I just had trouble taking action and executing and doing like those side of things, because the thought process is like, well, like, let me be in my feminine while I do this, right? And then like most things, then I swing, because I swung so far to the masculine, but to the wounded masculine, and then so far to the unbalanced feminine. Now I've been able to find this beautiful middle where I've incorporated the masculine feminine archetypes not only into my life but into my business, where this is where I think the masculine expression of the cycle is really, really helpful, because there are some months where we as entrepreneurs, coaches, even just moms, like there are some months and cycles where you are really in your divine masculine, where things are moving, things are being done, but it's not from that wounded masculine. And so now we have words to put to what it feels like when we're operating from our divine, healthy masculine.
Yeah, words and an avatar.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
We
So
can we
go
can
ahead.
conjure up that avatar and act through it, or let the avatar act through us.
Exactly. So the Warrior Maiden is the actually Lucas, you explain this because you explain it so much better. But what was a Warrior Maiden like back in the days of the tribe?
So the masculine maiden energy, the warrior maiden, is known for exploration, right? So expanding your horizons, finding new things, understanding things that you didn't previously understand. As opposed to, and I shouldn't say as opposed to, because there's no opposition. The non-masculine female, the maiden, she's not necessarily exploring externally. Now she's exploring internally. She's building the foundation to blossom into her womanhood, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the warrior maiden, this is a woman where the position in the tribe requires, and she's happy to fulfill it, requires that instead of her being focused internally, she needs to focus externally. So she's hunting, she's using tools, she's learning the land, she's interacting with the full breadth of nature and everything that's going on outside, right? And there's some internal aspects to that as well, as we all know, right? When you're building tools, you still have to do the internal work. When you're building skills, you do the internal work so that you can um, turn that into something that's repeatable and high quality, right? Eventually, we want to get into our grandmother, where we're a master of a thing, a master of a skill, a master of some tools, and we're sharing that mastery.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what the maiden is doing, is she's building that mastery. So a warrior maiden, she's building it externally. A fully feminine, a woman acting in her feminine, just a maiden, she's building internally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that distinction there, because it's like, okay, sometimes when you're in your spring and just some months, some seasons of our lives, we're wanting to cocoon inwards,
Mhm.
and we can do that still in our spring. And me being the all or nothing mentality type, when I first learned about cycle syncing and the moon cycle, I was like, oh, spring, like I must be planting seeds, I must be doing things externally, not giving myself permission to wait, but I can be in a feminine spring where yes, I'm planting seeds, but it's all internally. And oh wow, I can be in a masculine springtime masculine maiden, warrior maiden, where all of my stuff and energy is going external. So I just love the duality. And yeah, and I know Lucas doesn't like when I say this, but the permission, because we don't ever need permission, but the permission to move through them and flow through them and to choose which one is best serving you in this season of your life, this moment of your life.
I agree. It's funny that you bring up the word permission, because society teaches us that we do need permission, and it is so inappropriate.
Yeah.
It is so inappropriate. If we want to talk about things that are wrong, we should start with that thing. So let's all give you all permission right now to
Mhm.
give yourself permission.
Give yourself permission. You don't need permission from any other thing. Okay, talk to us about the enchantress, the masculine aspect of the mother.
I love it. Ugh. I'm getting chills actually right now, and I'm not even joking. So mother is a nurturing energy, right? So the feminine mother, the divine feminine mother, she's nurturing traditionally a family. Now, it could actually be her own family, her own children biologically, but that's not actually necessary. You could be nurturing some family that isn't your own. You, for instance, Shanae, right now, I don't know if I'm outing you with this, but you are nurturing a family of kittens.
Yeah.
And that's, you are acting 100% within your divine feminine mother while you nurture those kittens.
Mhm.
Now, you're also working with some adult cats. And I would argue that that's not your mother energy. Now you're actually in your grandmother energy. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
So the divine feminine mother, it's all about nurturing. It's you've planted some seeds, either figuratively or very literally.
Mhm.
Those seeds have sprouted. Those seeds have borne light, right? And now we're starting to nurture those. Me personally, when I'm in my mother energy, and yes, as a man, I have mother energy, I have a divine feminine as well. I'm working on plants.
Mhm.
I'm nurturing actual life, but to me, they're plants because I can't give birth. I don't have children. And I don't currently have pets. I could be in my mother energy with pets, but I don't currently have any. So I'm nurturing my plants.
Mhm.
So the masculine version of that, it's still nurturing, but now instead of it being nurturing life, you're nurturing other things that are not life. So when we talked about this a year ago, we talked about how a masculine mother might be nurturing her business.
Mhm.
It's a wonderful thing. And notice how we've gone from an internally focused, again, internally focused in the mother is nurturing your family, nurturing your pets, me, in my case, nurturing my plants. That's still very internally focused to an external focus. I'm nurturing a business.
Mhm.
Now, it's encapsulated. It's not necessarily grand. It's encapsulated. So when you're nurturing your business, it's still something that you can wrap your hands around, right?
Mhm.
But it's external focus. Business isn't about serving just you or just your family. It's about serving widely.
Mhm.
So it moves from an internal focus to an external focus. Now, when you're in your cycle, you're in that masculine nurturing, you're in the external focus nurturing, right? So that's mother.
Mhm.
When you're internal focus nurturing, you might be working with some of the seeds that you planted in your maiden. So you might be working with some skills. You might be working with building some of the internal part of your body, right? So um, your audience, Shanae, tends to include a lot of people that like to work out a lot, right? So when you're in your maiden, you might start a workout routine, maybe, right? When you're in your mother, you're getting deep into that. You're starting to nurture those routines. You're starting to help those routines blossom into your body, right? They've already sprouted. Now you're helping them blossom. When you're in your masculine, it's going to be externally focused. So in this example, these might be some of your coaches,
Mhm.
or these might be some women who aren't necessarily actually coaches, but they have friends that they go to the gym, and now they're noticing things that their friends are doing, and they're saying, hey, let me help you with that.
Mhm.
That's that external nurturing,
Ooh, I love that.
right? So you've already built, again, looking at it from a skills perspective, you've planted the seeds of the skill that you're turning into your mastery. And now, when you're going from internal to external focus, now you're helping that skill play in your local area.
Mhm. Mhm.
Maybe from a workout perspective, you're helping your best friend that you go to the gym with every single day. You're helping them get their technique just right,
Mhm.
making small tweaks. And
Mhm.
that's a good example of what a coach does. I love coaches, by the way. I hire coaches in my life. I do some coaching. That's a great example of what a coach does. And a perfect example of how that masculine, divine, feminine energy might play through you. You're saying, I've got this skill. Let me help you
Mhm.
improve your skill because I've already got it.
Yeah, yeah. That's so interesting you mentioned that because that is something I'm very aware of that when I am coaching, I am in my masculine energy.
You're in your masculine mother.
now I can call it the enchantress. Now I know I can put words to what it is, what it actually is. Yeah, my masculine mother, not just my masculine energy, but my masculine mother. I love that.
And that's why enchantress works so well. Because when we think about an enchantress, we're not thinking about somebody who just shoots off a couple of spells now and then, or maybe fires off a fireball in the very science fiction sort of way. An enchantress is somebody who's built a level of depth in their skills that they can ritualize some of their magic. Ooh, I like this. This is coming out nicely. So they can ritualize some of their magic. It's not necessarily as flashy up front, but it works through very much a feminine energy, through planting some seeds and nurturing them, and they blossom. And that's what makes an enchantress a beautiful thing, is you plant the seeds, you nurture it, and the magic will blossom.
Let that sink in.
Hmm.
That was good. I really like ritualize their magic. That's beautiful. So
in the very same way, when you're coaching, that's almost exactly what's happened. You planted some seeds, you built some skills, you planted some seeds in terms of finding some people who need to hire you to build that skill in them. And then the magic blossoms through that relationship, through the combination of the two seeds you built, right? Finding the clients and building the skills.
Exactly. And this is like a little bit off topic, but not off topic, but you know, when you are coaching effectively, when you are not in the warrior maiden, when you're not trying to do the work for them. And I think that is something that as coaches, that's a skill that's developing, where you are very confident in your ability to bring the best out of people. And so you create the container for and use your enchantress energy, use your masculine mother to hold them. But we're not trying to be the warrior maiden. We're not trying to do the work for them. We're not connecting the dots for them. We're simply holding them in a container and allowing them to blossom.
Love it.
Yeah.
Now let's flip this on its head. As the coach, some of the time your clients are in their maiden or warrior maiden. And so when you know that they're in their warrior maiden, and you can feel it when you're connected to people, you can feel it. Like that connection is native to humanity, and all you have to do is dial in, right? So when you're coaching and you're in your masculine energy and your client is in their warrior maiden energy, what does that mean?
Say that again.
When you're coaching, your client is right, because this whole thing is about the cycle, which means your client, sometimes when they work with you, they're going to be in their maiden. Sometimes when they work with you, they're going to be in their mother. Sometimes when they work with you, they're going to be in their grandmother. So what does that mean to you? How do you work with them when they're in their maiden?
When they're in their maiden, the way that I work with them is I try and balance it out. So if they're in their maiden and it's the divine healthy maiden, then I can be in my warrior maiden and balance them out that way, or I can be in the enchantress. So I think it depends on the person and if they're operating from the shadow or from the divine. Because if it's of a shadow, then I gotta come at it with a different approach. But I really like the way that you said that. It's what I do naturally, and I didn't know that I did it. But yeah, it's tuning into where they are and then changing your energy as a coach to further facilitate and help. And so it's about being adaptable and fluid and knowing what energy to bring to what situation and what person, and especially what they're going through. You know, some of my clients need me to be in my warrior maiden. And sometimes my clients need me to be in my masculine grandmother, where I'm just mentoring and high level showing you, but it's a different energy. Whereas my warrior maiden is like, all right, let's put our gloves on. Let's do this. Like, let's bash out this strategy together. Like, what are the deadlines? What are we doing? What are the dates? And so I'm in my warrior maiden with them. So yeah, it's cool. I didn't know I did that. So this is amazing because we're talking about cycle syncing and talking about how we can tap into where we're at in our cycle, because as women, we have this power of being able to amplify that energy. So when I'm in my the mother of my cycle, so when I'm in the spring, the summer, the blossom, this energy is actually amplified. However, I am not a prisoner to that energy. I can switch whenever I want. But when you're first learning how to connect with your feminine energy, cycle syncing is the way to be able to connect and to feel and to learn how to operate from them. So in case anybody was a little bit confused.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay. Are we ready to go into the last phase of the cycle?
Yeah. So, for better or worse, a lot of the way that we think about the world is mechanistic.
Mm-hmm.
It's very masculine, mechanistic. This is the way things work. This is how it works. So, the nice thing about women who have healthy cycles is that there is a mechanistic aspect, right? So, if you lose track, if you lose your way a little bit, there are bumpers on the track that will help you find your way back,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because your bleed is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a healthy cycle, your bleed is going to happen. Those are the bumpers on the rail. That brings you back to an understanding of where you're sitting, and it helps you to reconnect to that energy. And that's the beautiful thing about grandmothers and humanity, because that's what grandmothers are all about. They're all about letting you do some wandering and then being the bumper and bringing you back, right? So at the beginning of your bleed, there's that mechanistic aspect, without question that you've moved into your grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
End of your bleed, without question that you're moving out of your grandmother. And that doesn't change, right? So you might sit in maiden for a really long time and have a really short mother, or, right, conversely, and this happens to humanity, right? You might have a really, really short maiden and move right into mother really quickly some of the time, and differently others. But grandmother, when she starts, there's no question it's mechanistic. When she ends, there's no question it's mechanistic. And that's really helpful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is. And there are some women out there who believe that their bleed is a burden.
Oh no.
A lot of women believe their bleed is a burden.
Well, let's talk about that. Yeah. How does nature work? How does life work? Right? So all of you women who are listening, just take a moment, quiet your mind, and think about this. How does life work? Life works in cycles. Mm-hmm. We start from bare, fertile ground, empty, void, not dead, but bare, fertile ground. And we build up by planting some seeds and letting those seeds grow. And inevitably, this is the way life works. There are cycles. Inevitably, at the end of the growth, and sometimes for some species of life, that growth is a very long time, 1,000 years, 2,000, 5,000 years. And for some other species of life, that growth is a very short time. There are insects that only live a day. But they still have exactly the same cycle, all of them. So we start from bare, fertile earth, we plant some seeds, the seeds grow, they sprout into life, they flourish and flower through their life. They show up in their beauty, in their wonder. And then at the end of that life, they die, right? Mm-hmm. And so nature has this natural cycle of growth and shedding and growth and shedding. Mm-hmm. And your cycle is a mirror of that. Mm-hmm. It's not a burden, it's beauty. It reminds you that you are and that you can be connected to source, connected to nature, connected to this world. And that's when grandmother energy becomes, and again, it's mechanistic. When it starts, and you know that you're in it. Mm-hmm. But it goes from being a burden, oh, I don't have time for this, I don't want to deal with it, it hurts, to being a blessing. Oh yeah, this is my time to slow down and to get widely connected, because that's what grandmothers are beautiful for, widely connected. They're bringing their mastery to the entire world as they know it, which could be their tribe, right? It could be a tribe of 30 people or 50 people or 100 or 500 people. Or for you, Shanae, every single time that you do a podcast, you're in your grandmother and your tribe is thousands of people. You're bringing your mastery to thousands of people. It is a beautiful gift of grandmother.
You hear that? You guys are my tribe. I really, really love that perspective shift and the reminder that every single thing is a cycle. And the reason why so many women, if that is you listening, feel as if it is a burden is because we have been socially conditioned to live in a patriarchal society where everything is linear, where there is no cycle. And perhaps you just were not I wasn't raised with the knowledge or with the acceptance of what a bleed is. It was something that I was made to feel ashamed about. It was something that I was told to hide. It was something that I was told of like, no, like we don't talk about this and you don't show people when you're on it. And I'm like, no, like it's secret, it's hidden. And like any secret, it becomes a burden. And it becomes something to feel ashamed about, right? Instead of looking at it as a surprise. If you're not tracking, it's like, surprise, I'm here. We think of it's like, oh, it's a secret. And so then it becomes a burden because it's something that we cannot share. But I think that it's becoming more mainstream now, which I love. But there's some examples that I give my clients where if you look at, and it's shifting, it's starting to shift. If you look at old commercials for like pads or tampons, did you notice that they use a blue dye?
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of a red dye.
Huh. That never, I know. Yes, I saw that, but I never noticed it.
Yeah, because we're conditioned to think that the bleed is wrong. Because we've been growing up watching these commercials, it's all blue, right? And then so it's like the red becomes shameful. And it's starting to change. I'm starting to see different brands use red now to show the bleed. And so if you think that's a burden, it's not your fault at all. I mean, this is just the world that we grew up in, the society we grew up in, but we get to change that. So knowledge is power, but it's power when we take action on it and have the awareness of it now. So you have this awareness, knowing that this burden that you feel was just some conditioning. It's just a story in your head. And so we have the power to change that. So now when we move into that's the feminine divine grandmother energy. One of the things I also teach my clients and talk a lot about is that during this time, our hormones are at the lowest. So it's actually much easier for our left and right brain hemispheres to communicate with each other.
Oh, really? So connect to source, maybe.
Exactly. And so that connection is you have a deeper connection to source. You have a deeper connection to your inner wisdom. I even go as far as switching to womb goddess during this time, where when I'm connecting to source, I'm connecting to my womb goddess, not just to source, if that makes sense. So because I believe our womb goddess also holds so much wisdom on what am I going to bring to life next month or next cycle? What seeds do I want to plant? Where is my energy? Like, what am I being called to put my energy? For instance, like March, my womb goddess was like, slow down. She was like, there is so much life being created. Like, we need to be in mother. We need to be in mother where we're just nurturing and marinating and, like thinking of ideas. And so I had to like push some things off my plate because I was like, I don't have this energy to be in my warrior maiden right now. Like, I need to be or even in the enchantress, I need to be in the mother. I need to take this idea that Lucas and I cultivated and continue to mother and nurture and grow it. So when we move into the masculine aspect of our cycle, I love, 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 love that you call it the strategist, because when I'm in my masculine cycle, I tend to use this time to dig into the back end and the data of my business. I look at statistics. I look at Instagram statistics. I look at podcast statistics. I look at, okay, what's working, what's not working. I do lots of organizing. I like make lots of lists, and then I'll strategize where I'm going to be taking my next month. Like, what am I going to be focusing on next quarter, next month, the next, mesocycle of my business. So you really do move into that strategy energy. And because the hormones at the lowest, we have that deeper connection to source. You have so much more power, I guess you would say, in really tuning in and listening.
I love it. I don't know if you've told your tribe this, but I feel like I need to out you.
What?
One of the more recent breakthroughs that you had was realizing that you are a strategist.
Oh, yes, that is true. That is something that because I had been on this journey of healing my divine feminine and connecting with my divine feminine, I made myself feel wrong for the strategist.
Yeah. Sorry, I outed you.
No, it's good. I forgot about that. Lucas probably knows me the most besides Henrik. Second person to talk to the most. So no, yeah, you're completely right. And when I decided to embrace her, my business took a quantum leap. Things started shifting. Downloads came. Just, it was incredible to see the velocity of, I guess, manifestation. I don't know, just the velocity at which things came to me and happened and got put into motion when I embraced my masculine grandmother, the strategist.
Love it. Oh, love it so much.
So cool. And that's why I think this is so important, not only as business owners, but as women, to understand these different energies that we can play with. It's really about playing and being in tune with our body and connecting with our body and driving forward our business from this energy, because gone are the days that we're solely looking at what other people are doing and trying to copy. It's not going to work. Like, we have this natural intuitive blueprint, like an intuition blueprint within us that we can use when we learn to cycle sync with our inner goddesses.
So let's go back to this again, right? Because ladies, you have such a tremendous gift, and I understand that sometimes it's a challenge to deal with it as the gift that it is. But we've all had grandparents as well, and sometimes grandparents are a challenge to deal with as the gift that they are.
That's true.
But they are such a tremendous gift. Nature has created for you, Gaia in your evolution has created for you a necessary reconnection period. And boy, do I wish men had the same thing. It is such a tremendous gift that you move into your grandmother energy every single cycle, no matter what. No matter what. You have this period of time that is a necessary reconnection period of time, no matter what, right? And so when you're in your feminine, when you're reconnecting family, humanity, your tribe. When you're in your masculine, you're reconnecting strategy, planning. But it's this period, again, we talked about, like, whether we like it or not, we look at the world in mechanistic terms, and this particular mechanism happens, and when it starts and when it ends, you know that it has started and that it has ended. And you are given the freedom, and in many cases, the gift of a super deep connection to that freedom to really move into that grandmother energy.
Yeah, I love that. I love that it's the mechanistic in terms of, like, it happens for a reason. You have this for a reason. Listen to your body.
I would argue that women in their grandmother energy are the greatest gift that humanity can get.
I second that. Second that. So I know there's going to be a lot of questions like, well, what if I don't get my period naturally? What if my period only comes because I'm taking birth control? What if I'm pregnant? What if I've lost my period for a long time? And we're going to be diving into all of those questions on day 3 of our goddess initiation. So you can bring those questions there because I know that there's a lot, and Lucas actually has a lot to share about fertility.
Yes. Yes.
I outed you. So we'll be going into all of those questions like deeper. This was a high level view of how we can cycle sync with our inner goddesses. What are the masculine and feminine expressions of our cycle and goddesses, and how we can, and more so like why it's important that we, the knowledge of like why this is important. So if you want to learn the how, you can hang out with us in our challenge. We'll be going deeper into it. Is there anything else that we need to teach or share before we wrap this one up?
Well, let's close it out with a review just to tie it all up with a nice bow.
Perfect. Let's recap.
So the cycle begins at the beginning of Maiden, which is the first day after your bleed. The beautiful portion of mechanisms, right?
Mm-hmm.
You move into Maiden energy out of grandmother energy, right? Then the first day after your bleed. Mm-hmm. You stay in Maiden energy for as long as you need to. Your body will tell you, it will talk to you that cycle is natural, right? And it's not the same every cycle. Some of the time you're going to be in the masculine version of your Maiden energy, where what you're trying to do is explore, go outside yourself, expand your horizons. Sometimes you're going to be in the divine feminine version of that Maiden energy, where you're still laying the groundwork for things to grow within you, but you're doing it internally. Mm-hmm. When you're done with that for that cycle, you move on to the mother energy. Now, you may stay in Maiden for a very long time in that particular cycle, or it may be a very short time. Mm-hmm. You move into your mother energy. Now the seeds that you've planted are starting to grow. They're going to blossom. You're going to flower. Right? So in the mother energy, you are nurturing those seeds. And in the enchantress energy, it's external. You're helping the things that you've planted in your family to grow, in your business to grow. You're nurturing that. That could be a long time. It could be a short time. You women are so amazing because you can move between these energies as is needed. And now we're back to the mechanism. You move into the grandmother as you begin your bleed. And that start to create this practice in your life. Your grandmother energy is sacred. So either you're in the feminine grandmother or in the masculine grandmother, the strategist, but in either case, and you'll know which one you're in. Mm-hmm. You don't have to decide. Your body knows. Trust it. So when you're in the feminine grandmother, you're focused on being the bumper for your family. You're focused on bringing your mastery to the world. Mm-hmm. When you're in the masculine, the strategist, the grandmother strategist, now you're focused on building plans and understanding. And this is very mechanistic, as masculine tends to be, building plans that will execute against the mastery that you've built.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And we can flow through feminine and masculine. Maybe one cycle you're in your feminine maiden, and then you move into the enchantress, and then you move back into the grandmother. So it is fluid. It is not anything that you need to overthink. It's the trust within your body and listening to your body. And again, this word, giving yourself permission to listen to your body, so that you give yourself this grace to flow between them. So we'll give one action step is let's start to track our cycle sync. We're using day 1 as the first full day without your bleed. So the first full day after your bleed, and track your energy. So if you're doing your highest self journal flow under energy track where you're at mentally, where like, how awake and active your brain is, and track where you're at emotionally and physically. So you can start to see, oh wow, I'm in my maiden, or oh wow, I'm in my warrior maiden. And when we're tracking, the difference between operating out of autopilot and then being conscious is that autopilot, you're just doing what you think you should be doing. But when you're being conscious, you are listening to your body, seeing where your energy is at, and then reciprocating accordingly. So if your body says they want to be in maiden, let your body be in maiden. If your body says, oh man, I am actually like, this is an extended grandmother energy for me, allow yourself that grace and that ease to go slower. That is how we cycle sync. That is how we align our business and our life to our inner goddesses.
Yeah.
And life is easier. It's much easier. I think people are so worried that like nothing is going to get done. It's like, no, trust me. Like when you are in the flow, I mean, it was like what, 2 weeks ago, I wrote like 5 podcast show notes. It's a download, and you are connected with source. And so everything that you are in creation of becomes a download. There is no scarcity. Everything is abundant. So I bet you a lot of people are like, well, like, what if nothing gets done? Like, what if I'm just lazy? And it's like, well, that's a limiting belief.
Yeah. I mean, when you're with your clients, when you're with your workout clients, mm-hmm. and they complain to you about soreness, what do you say?
I see very, very few workout clients now these days. I don't do personal training anymore. I have like one personal trainer on Zoom every now and again. If I think back to the past, if they're sore, I mean, I adapt the training to the body. So if we're sore, we don't push it. We spend more time stretching and recovery, corrective exercises. But if you would talk to me 5 years ago, I would have been like, oh, great. That's a great sign. Let's push it harder.
So this is an interesting thought that actually just occurred to me. If you're in your bleed, if you're in your menses, if you're a little bit sore, what does that mean?
Oh, it means you need to slow down.
It means you need to slow down and work with the energy and stop fighting it.
Exactly. Oh my God, especially if you have cramps, like don't push yourself and work through your cramps, like slow down. And as like a side note, I had one client who, this is before all of this, she'd always cancel when she'd start her period. And that's when I was like in my competition phase, and I'd be like, you just work through it. And she's Chinese actually, so she's probably much more in tune with her body and her feminine energy. And so yeah, she'd always cancel, and I'd be like, why do you keep canceling? But that's exactly it. It's slowing down. It's taking a warm heating pad and lay on the couch and allow your body to rest. It's saying something to you. Yeah. Awesome. Well, we would love to know what stood out to you the most. What are your insights? What are your key takeaways? You can DM us on Instagram. Lucas is at Luke Root, right? LUCROOT. And you guys, Instagram, we'll link it down in the show notes. And we would love if you shared this episode with a friend, a cousin, an aunt, your sister, your mom, anyone in your life who you want to share this gift with, because it truly is a gift to know about how we can align ourselves with our moon cycle and how it is empowering and freeing, and the best gift of all, to not feel like our bleed is a burden. So share this with a female in your life or man in your life, because you want them to understand.
Yeah. Yes. As a man, let me tell you, we need to know.
Exactly. So share it with someone. And if you'd like to sign up for the Goddess Provenance, which is our 5-day goddess initiation, we have all the links down in the show notes. We'll see you there.
I can't wait.
All
I
right.
have to, but I can't wait.
All right, guys, we'll see you next time, same time, or next week, same time, same place. Don't forget to be your highest self. Bye for now. Bye.
Bye.